It's GAK's Gear of the Year!
Hello and welcome to the GAK.co.uk Guitar Shop podcast, and welcome to part 2 of our Gear of the Year 2013 discussion.
It feels like just yesterday we were talking about our favourite guitars of the year.
That's because it was yesterday.
Oh.
I am your host Mark Packham, who is with me this evening.
Hello, my name's Jay. I'm the assistant manager here in the guitar store.
Hello, my name's Matt and I'm the manager.
My name's Joe and I'm here for bass-related queries.
We're having fun.
We are. We were looking at pictures of Jim Dandy, and he is a dandy fella.
From yesterday, if you heard the podcast of, we were talking about the Jim Dandy acoustic.
Definitely check out photos of Jim Dandy.
Black Oak, Arkansas. He seems like he's like a modern day Iggy Pop. Not, I guess Iggy Pop is a modern day Iggy Pop, but he's like a.
He's still alive, so.
Well, you know.
Good work there.
So thanks for joining us for part 2. Part 2, we're going to be talking about amps, discussing the best amps of the year, and I guess ultimately which is our kind of favourite too.
Yeah, I kind of understand the
format now.
The format now, yeah. I sort of know what we're going for, so I think this is going to be successful.
You feel more
guys.
prepared?
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna knock this one out of the park.
Good. Right, I'm ready for it too.
We're gonna score a hat trick.
Seeing as you're so enthusiastic, why don't you kick us off with one of your choices for amp of the year?
Well, I mean, I don't want to peak too early. That's the problem, because I mean, the amp that I've chosen is obviously the best amp of the year. And it's the Fender 68 Princeton Reverb.
Ooh.
They're so good.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, 6 months ago, could you have envisioned that I would be suggesting even the notion that there was an amp for less than £1,000 that I liked more than a Blues Junior?
Well, you're still picking a Fender. It's not like,
I guess I'm not reinventing the wheel here.
The thing is, right, I'm going to say this. I think those amps are wicked, but everyone's gone, yeah, amazing, 68 Princeton. And I think, they do sound good, but there's been little other Princeton's been sitting there all that time.
It's a Silverface, which is definitely the best era of Fender amps. If we're talking about old school stuff. I prefer. I mean, I know that you had one of the reissue twins, which was amazing. Yeah. But I really like the Silverface stuff. I think the Silverface stuff is excellent, and the Princeton is so good. The reverb sounds amazing, and the tremolo, which is obviously something that I'd never used, sounds amazing as well.
Don't lie. When you're playing the Twin Peaks theme tune, you love using the tremolo.
That's very true. Yeah. I mean, and I guess. The amount of time that I play guitar and the amount of time that I'm playing the Twin Peaks theme tune,
you got about 50% of the tremolo.
I could justify, absolutely. So it's it's such a good amp. I mean, it's a 1x10, super clean, so you can stick your Mojo in front of it to drive it up.
It's one channel, isn't it?
It's one channel. It sounds so good.
I've got to admit, I was pained to allow you to have this as your amp of the year, or one of your amps of the year, because this is certainly one of my favourite amps
It's just such a great amp. I mean, it is a lot of money for what it is. It's 750 quid, which is you can buy a Blues Junior for 450. You can buy an AC-15 for 450. You can buy you're getting into a world of you're moving up the scale here, and it is a small amp. You could definitely use it live. It's only 18 watts, I think. It's 12 watts. Sorry, it's 12 watts. But if you, depending on the sort, and this is something we've spoken about in the past before. It totally depends on context, but. I reckon you could use this live, because most places that we play, you're mic'd up anyway, and it's so good.
Those sort of amps
so
just
much
sound so
there.
good. Just turn up. You are working them, really, really hard, and then they just say. I mean, when we were talking, I don't know if you when we were talking about Neil Young, and he uses 57 Deluxes, which are only like 12 watts, turned up to full. His 3 tones are like nearly at the bottom, midway, and up full. You can gig with that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
no problem.
Absolutely. And they're so simple. It's such a lovely amp. You've just got treble and bass, which is all you need anyway. Am I right, Joe? And you can just go from there. It's just an excellent amp.
Joe Brenton, Jay has pointed out your love of single-channel amps with very few features. What's your first pick for amp of the year?
Which one am I supposed to pick first?
Well, up to you, really.
Okay.
I mean, considering I've just said one with loads of features. Oh, actually, they've both got loads of features.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about one of the two amps that you've selected.
Okay. Okay, fine.
We're having fun tonight, guys.
I will talk about the Roland Microcube GX. In that case. The cubes aren't a new thing from Roland. They've been around for a while, but this year they had a big facelift and had a few extra features added. So they're still kind of loaded up with all those Cosm amp tones, and they've added a heavy octave this year as well. It's just incredible to have something so small and battery powered that has so many options.
I mean, it's one of the only things that's kind of got that's sort of battery powered, that rugged, that portable. That was, because I got one of the old ones and they're just awesome, and I was like, but it's one of those amps you wouldn't think they could really update much, and then they came out and I was like, man, this has got like a whole load of cool new stuff on it.
Aside from the fact that it's like £100, and aside from the fact that they're battery powered, they're always my first choice. If someone comes in and they say, I'm looking for an amp, it's my first guitar amp.
You can get it in 3 colours.
It's always my first choice. Even aside from all the sort of aesthetics, they're just excellent guitar amps.
I think for me, we've always suggested them, battery powered, all mains powered, but they're great for practices because I just have mine sort of under the bed, so if I can't plug my Blues Junior in, I can just plug in that.
Yeah.
But now they've got the iCube link, so you can plug your iPhone in directly into the top of the amplifier, download a free app called Cube Jam or Roland Jam, or
Cube
some
Jam.
sort of jam, and
Strawberry Jam
amp, and then you can basically plug it in. You can then play your tracks from iTunes from your phone, slow them down to up to half speed, I think it is.
Really?
You can speed them up to almost double speed without changing the pitch. You can then loop sections, so you can play solo sections, you can slow them down, you can learn all the licks, and you can record onto them as well. So what you could do is you can use the microphone on your phone, play a little bit, records into the app, and then you can email that to your friend, who can then open it up, record over the top of that, and then send it back.
It's just ridiculous, and all that for £109.
But this is the thing that I like to emphasise with that. Yes, it's got all of that stuff in it, but it's still, all that aside, it's just a wicked sounding guitar amp.
Yeah, the clean is still
the JC Clean. It's,
well, exactly.
they
my
haven't
all-time
changed
favourite
it.
guitar amp.
Really?
The Jazz Chorus.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Love the Brennan Jazz Chorus.
They've not changed. They've not really changed. I don't think they've changed the amp modelling at all. Maybe they have. Maybe
I think I think with those sort of things, they kind of update the algorithms. And,
yes, of course.
They might change.
But the JC Clean sounds so good, and the drive sounds are absolutely excellent. And I really like the reverb on there. I think they sound really, really good. And it's just they're super ergonomic. One of the big problems. I've got I've said this a few times.
VT20.
I've got a Vox VT20, which I think is an absolutely great amp. But one of the things that does kind of annoy me is when, because what I want from a practice amp is I want to be able to sit down with it, turn it on and play. I don't want to sit down and go, oh yeah, I forgot last time I used this, I sort of messed around and I put a weird delay sound. I've got to turn that off. I've got, I don't want to mess around with that. I just want it to sound good. I want to turn it on, sound good, play it for a bit, and then turn it off again. And that's what the Roland stuff has as an advantage over, the Vox stuff and the Fender Mustang stuff.
That's all rotary controlled.
They're so good. I just think those amps are absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I agree.
Matt Knight. So another contender, which I see you've put down on your list here, follows a similar thing really. They're not a digital modelling amp, but they are a transistor amp.
Yeah.
Tell us about your first pick.
The orange CR120C, part of the Crow Prush.
Crow Prush.
You spoonerised.
I did. I think Jay mentioned them as a
couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I did a video on them,
yeah.
and when I first heard about them, I was like,
yeah, I was exactly the same.
Solid state, really, and I think that's the thing. You work in here for a while, and you get to love all the nice things with shiny valves in, and how good this sounds, turn up really loud, and then you kind of forget about solid state unless we're talking about things like a Microcube that's got loads of effects on it. And what Orange really tried to do was go for something that sounded like a valve amp, but with, I suppose, more of the, in a sense, reliability of a something solid state.
Well, yeah, totally.
But something that's going to cost less money to manufacture, and but the thing is, they do sound different. So they've really worked hard, and these just sound awesome because they just sound. They sound pretty damn close to a Valve amp, I would say.
So I think they
sound
brilliant.
really close.
Yeah.
Basically, they're based on like a rock reverb. And I mean, when we did the video for them, I was like, wow, this is. Even the reverbs, which can sound a little bit harsh on some things like that, just sounds like a spring tank.
Do you know what?
Brilliant.
One of the reasons that I like Orange amps, and I kind of respect what they do, but for the sort of sound that I like, they don't have a fast enough attack. They're kind of like. Muddy's the wrong term.
Well, they're very British sounding, aren't they?
Yeah, which for me is not a sound I particularly like on the amp side of things.
Yeah.
But these put some of that back in there because they do react much faster to your playing. They are a bit more kind of, they're almost a bit more compressed.
Yeah, I can see that in a way. I mean, the game just sounds so natural though. It's so dynamic. I think the dynamics of the overall amplifier is what won me over. The clean is really responsive. The drive, the more you dig in, the more you get out of it, and it just got that. That Orange just tend to have that really kind of like doomy, like distortion sound, and that covers it really well without sounding too fizzy like some.
Well,
like
I spoke to one of the guys from Orange about this when they were first announced, and I guess we were a bit sceptical of how good they were going to sound, and we're very open about it. We're very, very open to being proved wrong. That's one thing that you'll never get from us. Is any sort of stigma about that. But we were just.
I'd just like to point out I'm never wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
The rest of you guys are fine.
Okay, fine. I mean, I disagree. I'd say you were wrong, but
wait.
Anyway, I spoke to him about it, and I said like, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Why do you think people are going to buy it? You've never done these amps before. You've never done them as like a head or like a big combo. Why do it now? And what they said was, until now, they never thought they could do it justice. They thought that if they did it, it would end up sounding like a cheap modelling amp, or like a kind of rubbish sounding practice amp that just went really loud. And they went, just give it a time, plug it in when it comes in, and give it a go. And honestly, it sounds so good that you wouldn't believe that it's a transistor amp. For the price, I would 100% choose one of those over something else Valve of that price. Like a Valve King. Valve Kings are cool amps. They're slightly different market. They're a lot heavier than what I would play. But for me, if it came down to one or the other, I'd definitely go with the Crush.
Which is ironic because I was going to say actually what these Crush Pros remind me of is something like a PV Bandit.
Right. Okay.
Like super high quality transistor circuit. Certainly, I mean for me actually, the Crush Pros have got the best clean sound out of any Orange amp. I don't particularly like the clean sounds on Orange stuff because I just don't think that's what they're designed for.
Who uses the clean sound on an Orange amp?
Well, yeah,
kind of. But if someone's coming in and say they've got 350, 400 quid to spend, they want a loud combo, they've got their first band, they play at school or play at college or whatever. Someone like that wants a bit of variety. They're not necessarily doing a doom band or a band where they just want to use the drive channel. So actually, these do fill a kind of a gap that's almost been like neglected a bit. Pretty much since things like the PV Bandit. People have either gone, right, okay, for that money you get loads of digital modelling, loads of effects, loads of all this stuff. And Orange have gone, no. What you want is just like really loud but sounds really good.
Well, I think the reason I like it is similar to the reason why I like the Microcube so much.
Yeah.
Is you don't have to save your set, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that, you go, oh yeah, cool, that sounds good, I'll just play for a while, easy.
Now, in exact opposite to that, J Cross, one of the amps that I picked for my one of my favourite amps of this year, or released this year, is the Hughes & Kettner Grandmeister 36.
Yes.
Now, the reason I picked that, and to be honest, I don't think I've actually personally plugged one in. The reason I picked it is because last week we had Perry from Pendulum in store
you love Perry.
doing a clinic,
Yeah.
and he was using one of these. He requested to use one of these. He normally uses a Triamp.
Yeah,
I believe.
okay, yeah. So this is like the scaled back version of the Triumph.
Well, kind of, yeah. It's more an upscaled Tube Meister.
Okay.
It kind of sits halfway between the two, and the reason I picked it is it sounded absolutely incredible. He was on stage, unmiked, in our little stage area that we've got here in the shop, and it just. It was loud, but had loads of definition, as you'd expect from Hughes and Kettner. He was talking me through some of the ways that he uses it with like MIDI switching and stuff like that. It just does a lot of stuff. 36 watts, but weighs like the same. It's the same weight as like a lunchbox.
Yeah.
And it's blue.
And it lights up blue, which is and you know Hughes and Kettner, the reliability is going to be good. And they got some digital effects in. Is that right, Matt?
Yes, you've got. I can't remember. So you've got delay, and is there a chorus on there as well?
It's using Kettner almost definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's to be honest, Perry wasn't using them because he bought a board of his own stuff.
Yeah.
He's a TC Electronics.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those things, one of those amps that necessarily I probably wouldn't use the effects. It's nice to have, but I personally wouldn't use them. I think the main thing for me, like Perry, is the fact that with MIDI switching, you can have like 128 presets. Now, I mean, most people probably wouldn't program 128, but it's nice to have more than 3 that a foot switch is going to be able to provide you, and the fact that each preset you could have 2 of the same preset, but one without the gain boost, one with the gain boost that does all the power scaling as well. And the thing is, you can plug them straight into a PA and.
Well,
that way as well.
That was the other feature that I was going to bring out. Is although we weren't miking Perry up at the clinic because our shop's not really big enough to need that. We might, if we'd want to put him through the PA, we wouldn't necessarily have had to get a mic out and get a cable out and get a stand out because it's got the Redbox output, which is like a really, really good quality model DI, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know someone who actually uses the Tube Meister, which is the smaller one. Just for recording. He never plugs it in to a cab. He just uses that for just
as
going
a
out.
box, yeah.
Exactly. And just really, really impressive.
I think I think it had to be done eventually because I think people were crying out for something that had slightly more headroom. And I mean, that's the thing. You're saying that you can just turn them up and up and up, and the clean channel just stays clean, which is what you want.
Well, see, because I wasn't here for the Perry thing last week. I couldn't make it, and. But Hannah, who works here, she showed me some of the videos that she took just from standing at the back of the shop.
Yeah. When he played Torn.
Well, I mean, first of all,
filming when he
first of all, how good is that song? Like,
right.
So
how good is his solo?
So Perry is
2 notes.
Perry
awesome.
is the touring guitarist. I think continues to be the touring guitarist for Natalie Imbruglia.
Not anymore.
Okay, but for a long time, he was Natalie Imbriglia's touring guitarist.
11 years, something like that.
And like. I mean, that song "Torn" is so good, and he like demoed that and played like the subtle guitar parts in that because it's not a big guitar song, but like when he was playing it, I was like, oh yeah, that's really really cool. And then the next video she showed me was him doing a Pendulum song where it's like super compressed, almost like keyboard sounding guitar, and it was all out of that.
Yeah,
that amp. Super versatile.
He bought a huge pedal board with him, but actually,
well, of course he did. I mean, that was the first thing that Matt said to me when I walked in today.
His pedal board was massive. No, he bought a really big pedal board with him, and he did show some of that stuff off. But actually, he was saying that for Pendulum, he kind of doesn't use any of it.
Right.
He uses
it's all MIDI.
No. He just uses the drive on the amp.
Oh wow.
He splits the signal between just going out to an amp and then also going out to like a digital system.
Yeah.
But he says for the actual guitar tones, it's basically him plugging straight into the drive channel of an amp.
Wow.
He's using the Triumph, but he said he's going to start taking the Grandmeister because they sound as good. They're kind of less money.
Yeah.
And they're a bit smaller and easier to cart around.
Well, I mean, the thing with the with all of the Grandmeisters and the Tube Meisters is, if like Perry or like Matt or you're the sort of person that goes to a gig with a guitar in the gig bag on your back, you want to have your pedal board in one hand. If you've got that, you don't have room. You can't carry a great big amp as well. So you can literally.
What do you mean one pedal board?
Well, yeah.
But what I mean is, you can easily take something like that. You can carry it in one hand, and so you could get to a gig on the tube.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that I think is a real triumph.
J Cross.
Yeah.
What is your second pick for Amp of the Year 2013?
Please disregard what I said about how cool it is that you can get to a gig on a tube. My other pick is, I guess, a little bit out of the left field for me. Not really the sort of thing people perhaps who listen to the podcast would expect I'd be into. The EVH 5150 head.
I think you might have it here as well.
You think I've got one?
No, I think you might have it.
Oh, really?
I absolutely love this.
It's an absolutely killer head. I think
worth mentioning it's the 50-watt version, which was the new
50
release
watt
this
is
year.
the one that we've, which is it's something that we've spoken about a lot. I'm not convinced that you need 100 watts anymore.
Nope.
Perhaps that's speaking from someone who's only ever played in super unpopular punk bands.
Or British Juniors.
But I don't think it's the sort of thing that you need. And so 50 watt is a lot more manageable, a lot more user friendly, also way lighter.
Yes.
Apart from anything else.
And you can get it in white.
And you can get it in white. Which
they're in a slightly smaller box as well, aren't they?
They are,
50s?
yes, yeah. And so they're just great. It's a really, really good rock and roll head. The drive sounds excellent. The clean sounds brilliant. The thing that's important to remember about the EVH stuff is, it's under the Fender umbrella.
Yep.
And so that you're going to get the reliability. You get 2-year warranty as standard. You know that it's going to sound good at whatever volume. They're just great. I guess to a certain degree it may put people off who aren't Van Halen fans, but you've really got to try and look past the fact that it says EVH on it and just see it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely wicked rock amp. It's not a metal amp. It's not a jazzers amp. It's the clean sounds great. The drive sounds amazing.
I'm surprised that you don't see it, because I'm surprised that you don't see them in more kind of like punk stuff, because what they remind me of is almost like a kind of slightly more ballsy, Marshall DSL 50 or something
absolutely.
like that. Something that's it kind of straddles that boundary between kind of crunch and distortion.
That's what it all evolved from, though. That's what he used very early on as a Marshall into that. And I think it's just hot rodding that, and then PV taking it on, and then PV moving to obviously EVH. And,
I think it's certainly something that if you're thinking, I'd really like a dual rec, but you can't afford a dual rec. Something like this would be a wonderful second option.
Yeah,
you get that drive. You could easily see, like a punk band using it, or crank it up. You could easily see a metal band using it. But again, because it's 50 watts, you've got all of that headroom. You can really open it up, and you can get some great clean sounds out of it. They're just wicked. They're just really, really, I don't know. They're just a good amp.
Joe Branton.
Yes.
You've also picked a slightly lower output amp, really, for your second pick.
I have.
What have you got for us?
Well, we've been talking a bit, talking with the Grandmeister and stuff about kind of smaller stuff, and and Jay mentioning there kind of being able to get to shows and carry everything in one. Well, what would be better than being able to get to a show with a guitar head that doesn't require a cabinet? I give you the Laney Ironheart. What?
Nothing. Keep going. I think we were just laughing at your build-up.
Oh, okay.
Go, please. Sorry if we spoiled
Which is
anything.
sort of diffused a little bit.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Shall I go from Let Me Into?
Yeah, go from the beginning.
I don't think you should cut any of this out. I think this is gold.
No, I'm going to keep this in.
Excellent.
Keep going.
Better not. May I present to you... Don't talk when I'm doing it. May I present to you...
What you... No, carry on.
Nearly fell off my stool.
You would have fallen down those stairs and died.
Please carry on.
You better cut this.
I'm not going to. Carry on.
He's not going to. Well, I'll just pause for ages.
Carry on.
May I present you...
This is not helping me get into the train.
May I present to you the Laney Ironheart IRT Studio. That's right. A guitar head. A guitar head. That, amongst other things, there are lots of really, really cool things about this amp, but one of the things that I thought was immediately awesome is it has like a speaker emulated out. So you can bring that to a show and you can plug that direct into the PA and it will still sound like a super valve charged amp head.
Well, the thing that I really love about them is that they're USB and then it's audio over USB, so you can actually use them as an interface.
When you put all those things together, it just sounds ridiculous. It doesn't sound like a guitar amp.
No,
Well,
but
the big
you can
problem-
also
the
go
big
between
problem-
15 watts and 1 watt.
Yeah, exactly. How incredibly useful
I mean,
is
you
that?
know, we like the Hughes and Kettner, but this, to me, the fact that you can plug it in via USB is like, and you can use it as an interface.
I mean, it's primarily designed as a recording amp. I mean, what's better than this? What's better than the fact that it has its own loop, so you can record with it and then adjust the settings on the head.
You can reamp it. That's pretty impressive.
But
goddamn
like, surely,
amazing.
Joe. But I mean, the big problem is it's very expensive, isn't it?
No, that's the best bit.
I know, it's so stupid.
It's £399.
It's
This is
absolutely
essentially
ridiculous.
if you have a home recording studio, which an awful lot of people do, and we kind of suggest the Blues Junior for this sort of thing. If you need to get really like decent, crunchy, big guitar tones, and you maybe don't want to aggravate your neighbours too much, this is just a must-have. At $399, you can run this silently and still get all of the tones, because that's the other thing as well. You don't have to have the speaker out on. It has a dummy load. So
Yeah.
you can,
I mean, to contextualise this a little bit, I bought a Focusrite interface a month or so ago, and it was like 120 quid.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That's like a third of the price of this amp.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Exactly, they're absolutely phenomenal. Primarily designed as a studio amp, but sound great live at 15 watts. Can be, brought down to 1 watt. $399. It is if you play in a big heavy band, and like I think Josh, one of the
Josh
chaps
who works here. Yeah.
He was certainly thinking about getting one. I don't know if he did.
He's got one.
Yeah,
He's
He's got one now.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And he doesn't bring cabs anymore
Nope.
to shows. Just brings this one ahead. Perfect for techie stuff. But actually, I think way more than that. Just an absolutely groundbreaking idea by Laney. Again, I've got another groundbreaker in my choices. But
You are
this
the
is
man. You are the game
this is a
changer.
game changer. And I think that's important. So yeah, the Laney Ironheart IRT Studio, wicked.
Now, talking about Joss, he's also, I believe, invested in your second pick for Amp of the Year.
Yeah, well, basically, I would say that my second pick is the more high-end version of Joe's.
Kind of.
In a sense, yeah, I mean, it's the Kempfer-powered profiling amp. So, I suppose in a way, yes, you could plug it straight into a PA and all this, but I think the thing is it's probably the best because it has every amp in it.
Yeah.
And if you plug in an amp, you go, that sounds awesome. I really like this amp. I wish I could own it. If you've got a Kempfer, you can, because you can digitally model it inside the Kempfer.
You always say Kempfer. It's Kemper.
Kempfer?
There's no.
I think it is Kempfer.
I think it is Kempfer.
Yeah.
But there's no pH.
No, but it's German.
Yeah.
I think there's some. I think it's Kempfer.
Really?
Kempfer,
Wow,
yeah.
interesting. I apologise. I didn't mean to interrupt.
But either way, yeah, I think the thing is, this is a pretty groundbreaking bit of kit because.
Is it a game changer? Joe can't be the only.
I think it is. Yeah,
because it's the first time we've ever had access to the behind the scenes of the idea of amp modelling.
Yeah, I think for someone who might own a studio, you want all of the vintage kit, but it's not like you can just if you're starting a studio, it's not like you can go out and buy 1960s Vox and a 59 hand wide Marshall Plexi. These things allow people to model any amp and actually create all the all the movements.
I think you should describe a little bit how, like, when you say you can model any amp. I mean, I find this very, very interesting how it works. I think a lot of people will.
It's a bit of a bizarre one because basically you go from the Kempfer into the amp and then back from your amp into the Kempfer. It then fires a series of signals into the amplifier, and then on its readings back then creates a digital model of.
It's like a 3D map, isn't it? It's kind of like how.
I'm not going to lie. I don't understand the true scientific nature
No. Of course
it.
not. No, but it's kind of how, in the same way, we don't really understand how those new Boss pedals work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it kind of works in the same way as that. You know, it's like 3D imagery and other such things that make me sound clever, but like, I don't really understand.
Yeah.
You know, it's astonishing how they work.
Yeah, and basically, it creates this 3D map. You know, as they say, captures the DNA of that amplifier, because every vintage amp will sound slightly different.
Yeah.
You know, the tubes might be worn a certain way, or whatever, and then so when you move the knobs on the Kempfer, you can actually model how the amp reacts. The actual amp that you're kind of creating this 3D map of works as well. So I think that it's kind of nice because over your time as a guitar player, you can capture all these fantastic, amp sounds. You can go into a studio and you can go, yeah, cool, that sounds great. That was great for the record. And then for live reproduction, you can actually model exactly maybe what you recorded. It's a much more high-end bit of kit, but I think for people who want something a lot more in depth and are probably doing it maybe a lot more in their day-to-day life, I think it's a crazy bit of science.
Now, my second pick and our last of our kind of gaggle of amps for Amp of the Year
That's
2013.
the collective noun you're going with?
Yeah, I'm going with gaggle.
Gaggle.
It's like geese.
Yeah, geese and amps.
Yeah, geese and amps.
Okay, cool.
It's complete opposite, to be honest, to what you've just been talking about. And to be honest, I think it's better for it, but we'll argue this at the end. I'm talking about the Fender Rampart. Now, we've talked about the Rampart before. It basically looks like a really cool amp wearing the best pair of pyjamas you have ever seen.
Yeah.
To those who haven't seen it, it's basically a small single-channel Fender valve amp, but it is one of the best-looking amps I've ever seen.
It actually comes if you buy it. It comes with a smoking jacket, a pencil moustache, and a pipe.
It does.
It's like you.
Yeah, that's true.
It is you in an amp. If you
pay
that moustache
travel costs, Joe will hand deliver it to you
in a suit,
and we'll share
in a smoking jacket.
We'll share a pipe with you.
We won't do that.
No, okay.
But it is your moustache in an amp. It is pure class. It's got a kind of sort of like tweed, like fleur de lis covering, like it's just like luxury. And they're no money. Sub 300 quid, is that right, Matty, on the Ramparts?
Yeah,
Thanks, Matt.
276, I think.
Two and some.
Sub 300. Definitely.
I would say that, to be honest, they're certainly not the best sounding Fender amp out there, in that they lack a bit of control. They don't, there's no EQ section on there.
But that's beautiful, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, they are super basic.
Beautiful in its simplicity.
But if you just want something, if you're thinking about something for Christmas, you're thinking, maybe I wouldn't be allowed a Hughes and Kettner Grandmeister in the living room, or maybe that's out of place with my decor, or I want something nice for my den, get a Fender Rampart, because they are the best looking amp.
They've only got 2 rotary controls on there. 2 inputs, clean and hot.
Just 2 volumes.
2 volumes for that. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, you don't get any control, but if you want something good looking in your house, get a Fender Rampart, because it is the best looking amp ever made by a human person.
Yeah.
Gents, we've got 8 amps. Let's pick one of our 2 that we selected, and then we'll whittle that down to 2 to go through to our Gear of the Year finals on Friday. J. Cross, out of the 2 amps that you picked, which one would you prefer to which one are you putting through?
Sorry, Joe. I'm going with the Princeton.
What did you cancel? What was your other one?
The 5150.
Oh, okay.
Fender 68 Princeton from J. Cross.
Oh, that's so stupid.
Joe Granton, out of
you
your
can
2.
choose one of mine if you want.
No, because I've got the Ironheart.
Yeah, which are you putting through? You're going with the Ironheart?
The Ironheart. The Ironheart's going to win, so I'm going to put through the Ironheart.
Matt Knight, out of your 2, which are you putting through?
I'm going for the Orange. The Orange Crush.
Going for the Crush Pros.
Yeah.
And I am going to go for Fender Rampart. I'm going for the Fender Rampart.
I'm not sure are we going to be able to whittle this down to 2?
Well, I mean, if I had to pick anything out of that entire list of what we've picked, I
would pick the Princeton.
I'm probably going to go with the Orange. I'm going to stick.
Crush Pro. Jay, which 2 would you go? Would you go
the
for?
The two I would go for would be the Princeton and the Orange.
Joe?
It would be, for me, the Princeton and the Ironheart.
Put me in a tough position, because I think I definitely think the Orange Crush Pros, because I think they are, like we've been using the word game changer, but in terms of transistor amps, they are totally different to anything anyone else is doing. I'm kind of inclined to go with the Ironheart because it's so different.
Well, I cannot see how we can send two. Like what? We're going to send a transistor combo and another low wattage valve amp, one channel valve amp.
I love those Princetons. I love them, but. For me, I would still maybe go with the Blues Junior out of the two.
Really?
And I think the Laney is filling a gap that nothing else is doing for the price.
God.
There's nothing else that does that.
Victory!
I better win tomorrow because I can't handle losing to Joe.
Are we comfortable with that?
The orange and the orange and the Laney.
That means you've got to take off another item of clothing.
Matt Knight, we comfortable not with that, but with that decision?
The amp choices are fine by me.
Good. So we're going with Orange Crush Pro. It's the one...
we're not. No, yes, no.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. Have you not been listening?
Orange Crush Pro and the Laney...
Roland Cube.
No. the Laney IRT Studio.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
To go with the Basics and the Jim Dandy. From yesterday.
No, the Ed Sheeran.
The Ed Sheeran. Sorry, I'm confusing things.
Let's wrap up now. Come back tomorrow when we'll be discussing pedals plus other in our third category for 2013's Gear of the Year. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
It's GAK's Gear of the Year.